He was on a podcast and he said, look, y'all, I've been having these dreams. The rapture coming. Side note, if you don't know what the rapture is, it's a belief that some Christians have where believers will be called up to the clouds to meet Jesus. Again, Joshua said, that's going down. They said, what? He said, yes. And well, the clip goes viral. A bunch of people start believing it. Apparently, people start quitting their jobs. You know how humans be. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's all it took. Yes, that's all it took. Because you see, this isn't the first time people thought the rapture was coming. In fact, many people throughout history have guessed when the rapture was gonna happen. Specifically, a dude named Harold Camping, who had 5 failed predictions and people still believed him. He said September 6th, it's going down. It didn't go down. He said September 29th, that's what I meant. It didn't happen. He said, what I meant to say was October 2nd. It didn't happen. Now here's where things start to get wicked. Those dates I gave you, he made all those guesses in like the 1990s. He comes back almost 20 years later and he said, yo, y'all.
Shalom, Yahawah, Shalom. All praises be to the Most High, Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect. And I want to get into this video. I don't know if y'all brothers have been keeping up with, some of the news out there. There's been a lot of Christians who believe that during the Feast of Trumpets or the memorial blowing of the trumpets, they were linking that to the time when Hamashiach, obviously they call him Jesus Christ, but when Yahawashi Hamashiach would return. And I want to get into this video because this reminds me of a video that I had an idea of like 3-4 years ago, where I said in 2021, you don't want to be a Christian. And I'm not talking about the true definition of a Christian, because essentially a Christian is actually just a true follower of Hamashiach, which we all strive to be like each and every day. But, the global stereotypical definition of a Christian, you go to a church, you don't believe in the law, you pray to an idol, white Jesus, and you believe in a lot of false doctrines. And one of the biggest false doctrines that so many Christians are going to get wrapped up in, and it's probably going to destroy the vast majority of them, is that they believe in a pre-rapture tribulation. So for those of y'all brothers who aren't fully aware, let's get some scriptures on that. All right, so this is the book of Luke, chapter 17, and we'll start at verse 30. It says, even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. In that day, he which shall be upon the housetop and his stuff in the house, let him not come down to take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Remember Lot's wife. Whosoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it, and whosoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. So essentially what Hamashiach is reminding us is, in a time when you have to give it all away, you can't hesitate. You can't wait on it. And you can't seek to preserve your physical life, because the spiritual rebirth that you're going to be having, and if you're of that number, when you're restored with an incorruptible body, is going to be 10 million times better than whatever you're trying to preserve on this side. But when you read these scriptures, a lot of Christians, they get misconstrued with a lot of false doctrine, because the Most High, he's bringing them great delusion. Verse 34, it says, I tell you, in that night there shall be 2 men in one bed. One shall be taken and the other shall be left. 2 women shall be girding together. The one shall be taken and the other left. 2 men shall be in the field. One shall be taken and the other left. And they answered and said unto him, where, Master? And he said unto them, wheresoever the body is, thither will the eagles be gathered together. And when Christians read this verse, there's other verses in, I think, 1 Thessalonians, you have 1 Corinthians chapter 15. They associate this with a pre-tribulation, before things go hard, before you have to truly endure the many terrible things that are going to be set up on the earth, that Hamashiach is going to return and gather the pre-tribulation church. When you understand the scriptures, it speaks about how Hamashiach is going to return and all will see glory, and we will meet Hamashiach in the heavens, in the air. All right, so this is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 15. It says, for this we say unto you by the word of Hamashiach, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of Hamashiach shall not prevent them which are asleep. Speaking about those who are the dead in Hamashiach, the people of the past generations who would pass away before Yahawashi returns, right? Verse 16, it says, For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of the Most High. And that's what a lot of these Christians were misconstruing. They were construing this verse with the final trumpet that's also quoted in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, which they believed that there would be a trumpet sounding and then the rapture would happen, not understanding that the final trump is when all of the dead are going to be resurrected to be judged on Judgment Day. Hamashiach is going to return to judge the earth. Hamashiach's not going to come, take some of the elect, and then allow all these different perils and things like that to happen. We're going to actually be on the earth going through these things, right? Which we're going to get scriptures on later. But I'll continue on. It says, And the dead in Hamashiach shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so shall we ever be with the Lord. So essentially, those who are of the elect are going to be caught up, going to be raised up, and going to be gathered by the angels to meet Hamashiach in the sky. You see what I'm saying? And when he blows that trumpet, those who will be of the elect will receive incorruptible celestial bodies. So they get this and they think, you know, especially in the church, that, oh, when you die, you go to heaven, or when you die in your wicked, you go to hell. When the heaven is going to be on the earth, and the torment or the hell is going to be on the earth. So that's where they get a lot of these misconstrues and lies. And that's what leads me to this video, not this one. This video right here, I seen brothers talking about Christians saying during the blowing of the trumpets there was going to be a rapture or whatever. And obviously, you know, brothers, we was just keeping the trumpets as usual, because we've heard this throughout. There's been so many people trying to predict when Hamashiach's going to return and when the end is going to return. Even many Israelite groups, not necessarily about a quote-unquote rapture, but they were predicting that the end would come when the chip would show up. You know, infamous is Tahar, Elder Tahar from GMS, when he used to have, I think it was the priest Ariah, and they were teaching a doctrine that Y2K was going to be essentially when Judgment Day was going to come, based off of scriptures in the book of Amos. I think it was the book of Hosea. So again, brothers, it's very, very prevalent that a lot of us don't fall for a timeline. You can't predict when Hamashiach's going to return, because the scriptures literally say no man knoweth the day nor the hour, and it's stated like that on purpose. So this is Matthew chapter 24 and 36. It says, But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. So even Hamashiach himself is saying, I don't even know when the return is going to come, but only the Most High, only Abba, only Yahawah Bahasham knows when that day is coming. So anybody who's reading the scriptures and you hear somebody trying to predict a day, immediate false prophet. And anybody who falls for that is not abiding in wisdom, but abiding in, I wouldn't even call it zeal. I don't really know what to call it. I would just say a great delusion. But let's look at this video real quick.
And I think it's really hitting me that we are going home.
So this happened when August 28th, 2025. You know, a lot of Christians were predicting that the rapture is going to happen, because the rapture is different from the chip. Like, when you know that when the chip is on the scene, you know there's going to be a lot of persecution, a lot of evils on the earth, a lot of betrayal, a lot of love gone cold. But when you believe in the pre-tribulation rapture, in your mind it's like everything's good. I don't have to go through this hell. I don't have to deal with the things of this world. I don't have to struggle. And so many people fall for it because it's a feel good, when the scriptures is a bitter book. The reality of what's to come during the judgment is going to be very bitter. A lot of people are going to die. A lot of people are going to get killed. People are going to get beheaded. People are going to betray you in ways that you never imagined. And only the truly refined of the refined are going to be able to withstand it through the power of Yahawah Bahasham. The Most High is, if it was in his will that none of us would have to go through this, he would have wrote it in. He would have had his prophets write it in the book. It's just that plain and simple.
It's really hitting me that we are going home. And I am so sad for those who are not going with us.
It's been an emotional couple of weeks for Rapture talk. Across social media, evangelical Christians have been posting hundreds of videos ahead of September 23rd and 24th. when it was predicted that good, Christ-loving folks would ascend to heaven with Jesus.
And the reason why I wanted to do this video, and I wanted to make it very simple, because for those of y'all brothers who've been in the faith, they'll understand the pre-tribulation rapture is fake. But again, you have to be able to understand the scriptures, man. A lot of these people, they go to the church, they look at certain things, and they just start running with stuff compared to actually reading and, figuring out what the Most High is saying to them, right? It says, Isaiah 66:4, it says, I also will choose their delusions and will bring their fears upon them. So the delusion is that they believe that there's a day and a time when Hamashiach was going to come. And also another delusion is that everybody's going to be spared who's going to be of the church. When I mean spared, I mean, preserved from going through any sort of hard times. Those are two heavy delusions, because even Sirach 2:1 says, if thou come to serve the Most High, prepare your soul for temptation. There's another scripture in the book of Revelation we'll get. This is Revelation chapter 2 and verse 10. It says, for none of those things which you shall suffer, behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried. The trials, the tribulation. Hamashiach is speaking to his church, his most faithful church at that. It says, and you shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. So even Hamashiach himself is letting you know that some of you are going to go through hell. Some of you are going to get tortured. Some of you are going to go through prison and pain. And you may lose your life for this faith. It is what it is. But if you do, I will give you a crown of life. In verse 11 right here, it says, he that hath the ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. So Hamashiach is saying, if you want to serve and follow after me, there's no guarantee that you're not going to die. But he's saying the promise is that you will not go through the second death, which is the lake of fire. You see what I'm saying? So again, when you read the Bible, when you understand the word, as soon as you hear somebody talking about rapture in a specific day, red flag already.
It all goes back to this viral YouTube interview on Setwinds TV in June.
Please pay attention to what I'm going to say. He says to me, on the 23rd and the 24th, 2025, I will come to take the church.
There's a date.
There is a date.
South Africa.
Again, brother, you got a vision, but where is the scripture that is authorizing or supporting what you're talking about? There's nothing there. So again, even when I be seeing certain Israelite brothers and they'll tell me like, oh, somebody predicted that this event's gonna happen, I'm gonna be honest, I just say, okay, we'll see. Because I done heard so many people. I remember in 2022 when the Ukraine war happened, there was a brother and he said that because Ukraine and Russia were going to war, World War III was finna happen in 3-4 months. Jacob's trouble was finna happen in 5 months. The famine of the word was gonna happen in 6 months. And I posted on there. I said, hey bro, are you prophesying this or are you just making a prediction? And he said he was prophesying. And obviously, the brother was wrong about it. And, I had a feeling he was gonna be wrong, but again, when you've been walking in his word for a while now, whether it be a year, 2 years, and me, I've only been in this for about 5 years, but brother's been in this for 10 years or whatever. You done seen this happen so many times. You done seen this movie happen so many times. You don't fall for it because that's true rootedness in the word, in the doctrine, and in understanding the will of the Father. All right, this is Matthew chapter 24. I'll start at 8. I'll start at 7. It says, for nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. So we understand that these things have happened throughout millennia. But at a specific time, there's going to be a lot of war between groups. There's going to be a lot of war between nations, as well as famines and pestilences and earthquakes in odd places. Verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows, meaning this is just the start. It's going to get much worse from that time. Now, keep in mind the sequence of events and how things are going to essentially play out. It says, all these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted. So those who of the church, they shall be, you will be delivered up to be afflicted and shall kill you. Now, is this talking about everybody who will be of the elect? No, of course not. But this is a part of it. And it says, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. So this is what Hamashiach is saying when that time is going to come, when his second coming is close. Because right here, it was verse 3, it says, and as he sat upon a Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? Meaning, what time does this happen? Or what are the signs of these things likely happening? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So the sign of his coming is going to be different events happening, different trials and tribulation, the birthing pains of a kingdom. Not that you're going to get raptured up before things really hit the fan. So I'll go down. I want to keep reading all this, but verse 11, it says, and many false prophets shall rise and deceive many. So when this dude on the screen predicted that he had a vision or a prophecy that Yahawashi was going to return September 23rd and 24th, again, he's a false prophet. And you can't really be shocked or surprised that people got deceived. You just need to pray to the Most High and thank him that you didn't get deceived, and pray that he continue to protect you and allow you to be girded up in true wisdom and understanding, so that way these specific deceptions or spirit of deception does not come upon you. Because as AI starts to get more powerful, as quantum computing, as robotics and things like that, as the beast starts to learn different miracles and signs and wonders, more and more people are going to be deceived. And it's going to be very hard for you to be able to discern what's actually in the not what's in the scriptures, but what's actually in front of you compared to what's a false miracle and what's actually fake, unless you be rooted in the word.
There's a date.
There is a date.
South African pastor Joshua Malakela claimed that he had a vision that the rapture would occur on those exact dates, sending social media into a frenzy. People were selling their cars and others were benefiting from it, as seen in this viral video with nearly 10 million views.
Hey, to the person who sold me their car on September 21st, this is September 24th and the rapture didn't happen, you're not getting your car back.
Another's.
And my thing is this. I mean, I kind of get the logic. I mean, it's fucked up, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, why just sell your car? You might as well just kept it. Unless you just wanted to give somebody a good deal or a good deed. I mean, you can. But again, a lot of these people, they don't give a damn about you. They don't care. And, you know, a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, they're suffering for... And I told a brother, I said, hey, I respect them for being willing to give up everything, to quit their job, to sell their car. You know what I mean? To, you know, detach themselves from this world. Because, again, that's literally what Hamashiach said. But it had nothing to do with the pre-tribulation rapture. They have a zeal, but it's nowhere near knowledge. It's just delusion. So the Most High will laugh at a lot of these Christians because, one, they're not keeping the word, but two, they're not actually abiding in the spirit. Let's get Proverbs chapter 1. So first things first, Proverbs 1:7, it says the fear of the Most High is the beginning of knowledge. And the fear, how do you fear the Most High? You abide in his word, you abide in his commandments. That's the beginning of your knowledge, to actually know what's going on, right? But fools despise the wisdom and instruction, because wisdom is given to those who truly fear the Most High, again, which goes into being obedient. Verse 8, I'll read it. It says, my son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. So a lot of times you see Christians in false delusions because they're not actually keeping the Most High's commandments. And no, we're not saved by the law. You know, obviously we're not under the judgment of the law. But as Paul said in the book of Romans chapter 6, he says, shall we sin now that grace be abound? Yahawah forbid. Basically saying, just because we're under grace and we don't have immediate punishment for the sins that we may commit because we're covered by the blood of Hamashiach, does that give us leeway or a license to sin? No, it doesn't. Because in the book of 1 John, I forgot what verse, I think it's chapter 3, it says, for sin is transgression of the law. And in the book of Sirach, the Most High says he did not give any man license to sin. So when you understand the doctrine of Christianity, they don't have a true fear of the Most High, which is why many of them fall into these false doctrines, false holidays like Christmas, like Easter, whatever else they celebrate, the Trinity doctrine, false names, there's many different doctrines you can go under, eating pork, things like that. But I wanted to get this right here. It says, Proverbs chapter 1 and 22, it says, how long you simple ones, will you love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. So I'm not sure specifically, what denomination they're a part of, but I'm sure they probably seen doctrines that said there is no pre-tribulation rapture. And they probably disagreed. They probably, went to false teachings. So the Most High said, he will make known my words unto you. Because I called and you refused. I have stretched out my hand and no man regarded. But you have set at nothing all my counsel, and with none of my reproof, I will also laugh at your calamity. I will mock you when your fear cometh. So in this situation, it may be rough, it may be harsh, but the Most High is laughing at a lot of these Christians' foolishness. And we understand, obviously, the Most High is not dealing with these Christian denominations. We understand that. But I'm just using it as an example because you never know, y'all brothers and sisters, you may get caught up in a false doctrine. You may get caught up in a false vision or whatever. And then this thing happens and you got to kind of backtrack your words and be like, oh, well, I technically didn't say it like that because, we didn't understand at that time that the prophecy didn't mean this literally. And now you twisting scriptures to say that the end is come, and that's talking about a false prophecy when you think the kingdom's going to show up and doesn't. Like, come on, man. You're trying to twist scripture for your specific interpretation because you were wrong about it. And that's what many people do.
September 24th and the rapture didn't happen, you're not getting your car back.
Another side of the hype, pet owners worrying about what would happen to their fur babies, as the Bible doesn't make much mention of cats and dogs. While many couldn't contain their excitement come the morning of September 23rd,
Today is the day!
Bro, tweaking, bro. Hold up, let me get this, man. This is Proverbs chapter 24 and 13. It says, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And again, I get the zeal. Obviously, I know many brothers that I talk to, a lot of y'all go through hell. I mean, I go through hell in certain aspects, but again, no man knoweth the day nor hour. And one thing that I've learned as I've grown in wisdom in this Bible, in the Word, when you're so overly focused on when things need to happen, you put yourself in a bad mental state. You have to be balanced with it. You have to be able to constantly look and survey, okay, what's happening with Ukraine? What's happening with Russia and Trump and the G7 and the two states with Palestine and Israel? And, you have to be watchful. I mean, even Paul, he mentions that in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, I think it's verse 1 all the way down to verse 7 or 8. But at the same time, you can't delude yourself into thinking something's going to happen, because what did Hamashiach say to say in the Lord's Prayer? He said, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. And when you have a lot of people who fall for these false doctrines, they're trying to bring out their will and try to associate it with the Most High's timeline, and that's not how it works. So it's always best to be watchful and be prepared and have your spirit ready for that day, because nobody's going to fully be prepared to go through tribulation. But at the end of the day, we're preparing ourselves mentally for that time. We're not going to get caught off guard. But at the same time, you can't be so giddy and wondering what's going to happen, because the Lord will allow a spirit to come on you where you're bugging out and you're losing your mind.
Let's go! We made it!
it was especially hard for true believers when they found out it didn't happen and they still had to go to work. The TikTok account Rapture Clownery Archive has collected many of the disappointed reactions.
To my brothers and sisters who are watching for the rapture right now, don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. Jesus is still coming.
And as we approach the end of the day, it's looking like it's not happening, y'all. I'm not gonna lie, I feel foolish. I feel dumb.
Hey, her name say Bust Down Athania.
Looking like it's not happening, y'all. I'm not gonna lie, I feel foolish. I feel dumb.
It is September 23rd, and we're still here.
And I'm fine with that.
The dates in question also lined up with this year's Rosh Hashanah.
And the danger in this mindset, again, like you may think certain things are gonna happen your way and it don't. You may have certain disappointment. There's nothing wrong with that. The main danger is thinking that you're not gonna have to go through tribulation, because this is kind of like a mini sneak peek. Because again, brothers, the rapture that they're referring to, the actual rapture or the gathering of the elect, is gonna be in the midst of the great tribulation. Literally in the midst of the great tribulation. All right, so this is Matthew chapter 24 and 29. It says, immediately after the tribulation of those days. So after the tribulation in those days, the last days, right? Shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So this is Christ literally talking. He's saying the time when I'm going to return with the angels to gather the church or gather the elect is going to be during the great tribulation, when there's already chaos and hell on the earth. So if they fell for this pre-tribulation rapture, it's because they're not actually reading the scriptures. Because it also says, shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. I'm not saying things are great right now, but not everybody is mourning on the earth. You still got the ability to work. You still got the ability to buy. You still have the ability to live a somewhat normal life. Yeah, you know, inflation's bad. Yeah, there's more protests. Yeah, there's more unrest, but we're not really going through anything crazy like that. And the main delusion is that you have people predicting the day every single year, and a lot of Christians fall for it. Like, even if the Christian didn't believe in the pre-tribulation rapture, I would at least, you know, give them a little bit more respect. Obviously, I still think that they have a lot of false doctrines, but you know, you have to really read the word, bro, and not fall for the delusion. But that's why, like I said, it's the Most High who places the delusion, because when you understand the word, it's plain upon tables.
And I'm fine with that.
The dates in question also lined up with this year's Rosh Hashanah, or the Jewish New Year.
And again, the Jewish New Year, when you go into Leviticus chapter 23, the blowing of the trumpets is the 7th month. The New Year is during the time of the Passover, or what they would call the Abib. So, you know, again, there's a lot of falsehoods.
Also known as the Feast of Trumpets, this year the holiday began at sunset on Monday, September 22nd, and ends at nightfall on Wednesday, September 24th.
And the crazy thing about this is, we all understand most Christians, probably the majority, don't keep any holy days. They don't keep the Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, Pentecost, the blowing of the trumpets, atonement, you know, the Day of Tabernacles, etc. They don't keep the Sabbath, right? But why are they predicting Yahawashi is going to return on a holy day that they don't even follow or keep themselves? You see what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense. So, you know, when you have a spiritual eye to discern, you know, things like this, you obviously know that it's not going to happen the way they want it to happen. And if you're a Christian listening to this, obviously I'm telling y'all to repent, you know, lose a lot of falsehoods. You know, I'm not going to castigate the people who come on here, because at the end of the day, there's no point being prideful. But, you know, let this be a lesson learned to really try and understand the word, and quit following all these false leaders, because the vast majority of them take 501c3. You know, they're propping themselves up to be these great leaders, these great, you know, bishops or deacons or whatever, and they really don't even understand the Bible themselves.
It's seen as a time to reflect on the past year, and yes, that includes internet crazes that you may or may not regret getting swept up in.
I'm going to end it on this. This is Revelation 21:1. It says, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. This is speaking of when the Most High is going to fully restore the heaven and the earth that we're dwelling in right now, right? It says, and I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem. So this is the kingdom that Christians, you know, proclaim they're going to be in the third heaven with Jesus, right? It says, John saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from the Most High out of heaven, prepared as a bride, adorned for her. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of the Most High is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and the Most High himself shall be with them and be their power. So my point is this: in the place where you're quote unquote dwelling with God, like what Christians say, it's on the earth. So again, it's foolishness, man. But you know, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Let this be a lesson learned. If you got deceived, I don't know who's gonna watch this, and y'all brothers understand this happens all the time. So it is what it is. But I'll give all praises to the Most High, Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Until next time,